for questions if you want to save any to have more of a discussion then. So the description of this mechanism is that the CTSI is looking for applications for team building activities. So I want to firstly just frame this as that we're not looking to fund research with this mechanism. We do have a different mechanism for pilot projects that fund research studies, but this mechanism is specifically to provide you with resources to help build your team that is going to go on to do some great research later. The vouchers are for up to $10,000 in total costs each. And our goal is that you would use these resources to do team building activities that are going to enable your new team, so a group of folks that haven't worked together before, and a group of researchers who are multidisciplinary and or involve multi-sector partners like community partners or government partners or healthcare partners. So you're bringing these diverse folks, these diverse group of new people together to do things like generate research ideas, plans for future research projects, perhaps to do some scoping work around that, and that you are engaging as a team and building your team's capacity in ways that is going to enhance your capacity to work together and do research together in future. So that is the goal of this funding mechanism. Some details about the application and project timeline. We are accepting applications at 2 annual deadlines each year. The one that's coming up is in January 5th of 2024, which is just a couple short months away. And then we will open this mechanism again in midway through 2024, should you want to apply later. We do review these quickly and make the funding available rapidly. So after submission, you can anticipate that the funding would be made available to you within 4 to 6 weeks. So by early to mid-February 2024 is when you could plan for a start date if you're submitting in January. And the expectation is that this project and the award would be expended within 6 months' time. In terms of who is eligible to apply for this funding mechanisms, PIs must be full-time faculty members at USC or CHLA as of the date of the award starting, so February of 2024. If you have team members who are postdocs, residents, fellows, students, community members and partners or government partners, they can serve as co-investigators on the application, but the PI should be a faculty member. The other restriction for PIs applying is that they can have only one active team building voucher proposal or funded award at any one time. So you shouldn't submit 2 proposals to us as PI for any award cycle. And if you already have one funded, you should wait until it has ended before you would apply for PI again. However, if you are a PI with a team building voucher, it's fine if you're a co-investigator on other proposals or active awards through this mechanism. And we do have a process for a renewal process essentially for this mechanism. So a PI and their team who have been awarded a team building voucher and they demonstrate significant process in those first 6 months are eligible to apply for one additional award for up to another $10,000 for a set of new goals that you might have. So the renewal isn't a no-cost extension or an extension of what you've initially proposed, but if you are successful in completing that first 6 months and your team has new goals and activities that they'd like to pursue as part of a team building process, you could apply for a second 6 months and an additional $10,000. A lot of the questions we get in this mechanism are like, what are the activities that we could expend this money on if we're not funding research? And so the RFA provides a lot of examples of the types of activities that we would like to support and that we have supported in other teams that have been funded. But essentially, we're looking to support activities that help the formation of new research teams, and the development of new research ideas and projects. So these could include things like hosting a conference or workshop or seminar with your team, and maybe bringing in other experts or partners who are interested in your topic area. This should be, again, a new group of multidisciplinary and or multi-sector partners or community engaged partners that are working on a new research project idea or program and trying to get it off the ground and sort of essentially coalesce your ideas. It could be things like engaging a consultant or facilitator to help your new team brainstorm and formalize research directions or ideas that you could apply for in future. Some activities in other funded teams that we have worked with include things like a landscape analysis of new research areas. So they've used the resources for meetings, but also to fund research assistants that help them do like a landscape analysis of a new area and where they might want to direct their research efforts in future. And it could also be used for some very early idea formative work, like running focus groups or listening tours. So things that aren't necessarily a pilot study that would be funded through a research mechanism, but some initial data gathering that's formative for your new team. And in the RFA, we have other examples of activities that we suggest or have funded in other teams, and these are not exclusive. So if there are activities that you think would be really valuable for your team's formation and working out how to work on a new project together, you're very welcome to propose those. One eligibility requirement for this mechanism is that you meet with our team, the Research Development Core, for a 30-minute pre-submission consultation. Essentially, we meet with you all to have a conversation about what you're hoping to do and provide you with a bit more insight on how the features of this mechanism fit with the ideas that you have. We can help you meet that mission and help you think about activity plans to achieve team building goals, and also connect you to some other resources we have that may be useful. Yeah, I think the main value that we've had with teams getting out of this is, one, working out if this is the right mechanism for you based on the ideas you have. And sometimes we direct people at this meeting towards our pilot grant program because that feels like a better fit. But in most cases, the conversations are really trying to understand what you're trying to achieve as a team and making some suggestions about how that could fit with our mechanism. So please, if you're planning to submit in January, please schedule one of these, and you can reach out to Leslie, and we'll share those details at the end to schedule that. I'll quickly review the award conditions. So by accepting the award, the funded team members are required to participate in a 2-hour online team science workshop that we have developed at the CTSI in partnership with team science experts, but that's really tailored for health sciences research at USC. And we do this workshop with your team, covering some of the basic practices and skill sets around team science that we found has really benefited the teams that we worked with. And the other ask that we'll have of you is a final report about the project outcomes at the end. We may also ask to be present at some of the team building activities or meetings. We at the CTSI are asked to not just help researchers do team science, but we're asked to participate in the science of team science. So essentially understanding and evaluating what we're doing and the trainings we're providing and the funding we're providing. One of our tasks is to understand how that works for people and to improve on it and actually publish some of the work in the science of team science literature. So that is the reason why we might ask to be present at some of your activities and better understand how this funding mechanism and activities are working for you. And then just to get into the nitty-gritty of what we're asking for a proposal, there's an online portal that you can link to through the RFA that will be asking you for the list of things here. Just some basics about the general applicant, the PI, in terms of their contact details and position and some other characteristics. The proposal itself should be a maximum of 3 pages, including any references that you have. So it's fairly short. And in that space, we'd like you to describe your objectives, the rationale for doing this project and bringing this team together, and how the activities that you're proposing are going to help develop your new multidisciplinary team and help them be successful at doing research together in future. You should provide a description of the team, including the role of the different investigators and participants and how they're contributing to the multidisciplinarity or multi-sector dimensions of this team, and describe the diversity of the team. One of the premises of team science is that bringing folks together with diverse fields and academic backgrounds, diverse lived experiences, and diverse in terms of the sectors or organizations that they represent is really critical to doing innovative translational science that is science that will be really responsive and valuable to translating to the real world down the road. And so for that reason, we're looking for you to describe who is on your team and the diversity of that team and how they're coming together to create sort of a team science dream team for this problem. The third thing that you should include is specifics about team building activities that you're planning. So that is details like, with this award, we're looking to bring in a facilitator and host a workshop to scope out like this research area and to have a team retreat where we get to know each other and learn a shared language about the research problem that we're working on together and set a vision for our team. So it should be examples like that are concrete in what you plan to do with the award. And then lastly, to describe future directions. So as I said at the very beginning, the goal for us is to provide funding and resources to teams that will help them do research down the road. And so we'd like you to describe what you see your team doing next in terms of perhaps submitting for an external grant submission or a pilot project, or some concrete next steps on the research after the team building activities. The budget should be a maximum of $10,000 total cost. And we ask that you include a standard budget form and a brief budget justification. The RFA has some guidance around things like regulations on cost for meals and food, if that's something that you're planning to incorporate in things like a workshop or a seminar. Please include a standard NIH biosketch for all of the key personnel on the project. And if you have letters of support, say from a community partner or a government partner that you're working with, please provide that as well. And we do have a few formatting requirements that are detailed in the RFA. I've mentioned briefly at the beginning that there is the potential for renewal. So if you're awarded a team building voucher and you demonstrate the success in that first project or the first 6 months of activities that you're proposing, you're welcome to contact us for details about how to submit a renewal application. And we will be asking for information on detailing what you've accomplished with the first voucher and what new, sorry, that should say not news, what new goals and activities are planned with the requested additional support. So I'll sum up with sharing a couple of examples of successful applications in the past. The first example was a team building a voucher to a group who were looking to develop transdisciplinarity and response to transdisciplinarity in their team to be able to respond to the opioid epidemic. And so their objectives were to draw on team science practices and the evidence base around team science, and to use cultural exchange frameworks to assemble a new multidisciplinary team of USC scholars and promote transdisciplinary approaches and ideas to the problems that were defined in the space of the opioid epidemic. So they implemented team building activities assessed the process of becoming a transdisciplinary team, and started to conduct a research study and scoping work addressing emergency department responses to the opioid epidemic in order to frame their future work. A second example is a project looking at neurodiverse individuals and their lived experience with online games and virtual worlds and tools for telehealth. And so they had some goals that were about scoping a new research area and investigating from patient experiences and lived experiences of neurodiverse individuals and how they intersect with virtual worlds, and some benefits and challenges to this space. And then secondly, to develop and bring together a new multidisciplinary team who are going to co-create best practices and clinical implications for implementing technical applications during telehealth. And this work was intended to inform future pilot and research studies. And the last thing I wanted to share is just to highlight, I think, the value of these types of team building vouchers for future funding that you might be thinking about with your research projects and teams. Most has been funny. So just one concrete example, one team that we have provided 2 team building vouchers to, they use those team building vouchers to bring together folks that were interested in young adult cancer survivorship. And they, conducted a number of activities, I think initial meetings and seminars and scoping work with those team building vouchers. And that eventually led to them submitting and being successful in getting a center set up at Norris around young adult cancer survivorship. And so the team that set up this center, really leveraged a few of our team building vouchers to do some of that preliminary team building work. And they used it to develop connectivity and facilitate meaningful collaborations among different faculty and associates who wanted to develop research focus in this area. As part of their team building work, they did things like, raise awareness of research opportunities, highlighted availability of different clinical and scientific resources at Norris and at USC. They helped connect investigators interested in these issues and find expertise in areas that they wanted to move forward. And they also used some of the resources to host expert speaker series. And this has grown into a really successful and productive group of folks working on this topic that includes pre and postdoctoral and PhD trainees and medical fellows and residents and students. So this is definitely one of the real success stories we've seen come out of some of this team building work. Another way I wanted to highlight that these team building vouchers can be valuable to you in future applications with your team is that increasingly funders like the NIH, ARPA, the NSF, and foundations are interested in both the science that you're proposing and your expertise and capacity to do that science, but also your capacity to work together as a team, so your team science capabilities. And there's opportunity increasingly to document your teaming capacity, essentially, and your teaming expertise in grant proposals. So you can document things like the history of your team's collaboration, papers or products that you've worked on together, successes that you've had as a team, like getting a team building voucher grant and what came out of that. And also you have opportunity to document your team's team science capabilities. So often in my grants, I start to put things like, I've had training in team science. I've built up best practices within my teams around how to communicate and collaborate and successfully get this work done. And those are things that I highlight in both the research strategy when we're talking about the team. So not just saying, we have X person and they're an expert in Y, and listing everybody on your team, but really articulating that you all have had this practice working together and have built your teaming capacities and ability to do this work successfully together. So those are things that you can put in the research strategy, in things like a multi-PI plan if you have multiple PIs, documents that are outlining the structure of your study team. We often go into a fair bit of detail there about some of this work. And you can also highlight this in your bio sketches when you're talking about, like, why you're the right person to be on this team and how you've been engaged in team science best practices with this group of folks. And one example for ARPA funding that comes through sort of adjacent to the National Institutes of Health, this is one way that they articulate the types of programs and grants that they like to fund. And you can see in this sort of chain of research activities that they're looking to support is that there's an initial phase with research teams around the designing of ideas and programs, and that you explicitly work together to build a team that is going to perform well and be successful. And so these are the types of activities that you can really articulate in these types of grant mechanisms about, what you all have done as a team to build up your team science capacity.